Go.
Hello and welcome to the Adventures in Poor Taste podcast. It's nice to have you here. I'm Sam Roach, and with me today, Jordan Richards
Hello.
and Gregory Paul Silber.
What up?
We are the only comic podcast that has a 13-year-old Jewish boy hosting and two grown men also
One of
hosting.
whom is also Jewish.
One of whom is also Jewish. But religion doesn't matter in this. It's all about the comics, isn't it? But we don't really talk about many comics, but we will today. So, today on our agenda we have, we're going to be discussing possibly two, most likely just one indie comic books from Image. One is the debut of MPH, Mark Millar's new series. The other is Rat Queens, an Eisner-nominated Image series that I find a lot like Saga. We'll also be compiling a pull list and discussing Mark Millar. So let's start off with the pull list. We have a budget of $12. It usually allows for 3 comics, maybe sometimes more. My comic that I chose was Saga number 19. I've been waiting a long, long time to read the next issue of Saga, and much like every other Saga fan ever, and it totally delivered. The ending brought a tear to my eye. I can't wait to see where it goes from here. This just set up for a really an amazing arc, and I'm sure it will be. And so I'm so glad that it's back, and it was really my favorite comic of the week. So that takes up $2.99 of our budget, a very fair price point, and that is my comic to add to the pull list.
Just a quick question. I haven't read it yet because I'm behind on an arc, but I heard this. Does it really open up with a crotch shot?
Yes.
It opens up with a vagina.
It opens up with so much more than that.
So much.
It is the TV bursting out of a vagina.
Of course it is.
So, I mean, it's all in the fun of Saga, but it is pretty disturbing.
I mean, that kind of thing I noted in my review. That happens pretty much at least once an issue. And it's kind of just one of the things that you learn to love about Saga. But if that really freaks you out,
perverted.
I hope it doesn't freak people out too much, but if it does, Saga may not be for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, Saga number 19, I reviewed that, gave it a 9.5. Definitely a great choice, Sam.
All right, Greg, let's hear what you have to say. If you don't
okay.
second my Saga.
Oh no, I definitely
seconded it. You didn't pick it yourself.
No, I would have picked it myself if not for the fact that Axe Cop is, and I know this is hard for people to believe, even better than Saga. It is that good. It is that funny. American Choppers, Axe Cop American Choppers, the new miniseries. It just came out yesterday. With the new #1 issue. It's a great jumping on point if you haven't experienced Axe Cop yet, but I highly recommend going back and reading as much Axe Cop as you can. Most of it you could find for free at axecop.com.
You do understand the American Choppers reference, right?
I know, isn't there some show called American Choppers?
Yes, I think so.
Choppers is another word for rappers that they use. And the American Choppers were like these group of rappers who are supposedly the best rappers in all of America.
Oh, okay.
It's a bunch of horse shit.
Hey, well, you know it's not horse shit? Axe Cop.
Yeah.
Really, I don't want to give it away. It's not the kind, some funny things you could explain why it's funny. Axe Cop, you can't really. You just have to see it for yourself. Go online, go to axecop.com, go to the archives and read the first installment. You will not be disappointed. If you have a good sense of humor about yourself, about comics, you're definitely going to enjoy it. I could not recommend it more highly. I keep thinking that because Malachi Nicole is getting so much older that the series is going to take a dip in quality because he doesn't have that same 5-year-old innocence anymore. But it's just as good as ever. Have you guys read Axe Cop?
I have not read any of it. I've seen a little bit of the TV show, but not enough to make a
The
fair
TV
judgment.
show is not. The TV show is a lot different. I enjoy the TV show, but until that writer's room is filled with
5-year-olds?
nothing but 5-year-olds, yeah, it's not going to be anything like the comic.
Yeah, it's pretty much
Um,
all my experience with the comic.
like I'm glad that the show has kind of risen the exposure of Axe Cop, but I've heard from a few people now that they were turned off from the comic because of the TV show, and
That's
that's really
interesting.
unfortunate.
Do you know which came first?
The comic,
Obviously.
Really?
yeah, yeah.
Comic's been around for years.
Do you want me to give a little bit of background about what Axe Cop's deal is? Because you kind of have to know what's going on with it to appreciate it. Basically, it's written by a 5-year-old, drawn. Well, he was 5 at the beginning. At the beginning, his brother was 29. It basically is just a kid's imagination translated into this comic.
Yeah.
So if you were ever a child and just like to kind of play around and make up these ridiculous stories, with your action figures and stuffed animals and stuff, maybe, Axe Cop is definitely a comic for you. But
Okay.
from that, why don't we move it on to Jordan?
Right. My pick for this week, costing $4, is Elektra #2. It's the continuation of the story where Elektra is hunting down one of the greatest assassins of all time, heading to Monster Island on a tip. While she's there, she runs into some other assassins looking to get in on the action by the names of Lady Bullseye and Scalp Hunter. It is really good. It's written by the guy who did who wrote Batwoman a while back before things happened, and it's drawn by what's his name here? Michael
Del Mundo.
Yeah, Del Mundo, who did the covers for X-Men Legacy. It's a very gorgeous looking book. I would almost recommend this book alone for the artwork itself. It's a visually impressive to look at. It's just so good. At the entire just check it out.
Sam, I know you had some differing opinions about Elektra.
See, this is my thing with comics, and I've mentioned this so many times. I just want to enjoy comics, and I felt like I couldn't enjoy Elektra. I felt like it was just too moody for its own good, and didn't really have anything. I think the art's gorgeous, but it's just not the kind of aesthetic I want in a comic. As a piece of Waller, it's fine. Like it's beautiful. It's great, but as a comic, it's just sort of too dreary to be engaging, and I don't like that. It's just not a pleasant experience for me.
So you want something with a little bit more upbeatness to it.
Not that I like dark and gloomy art. It's just that particular style just seemed a little bit too grimy and just sort of not too down in the dumps. Just a different kind of color scheme and shading than I'm used to and that I like.
All right.
However, I do like Del Mundo's covers quite a bit, and I don't really know much about the author.
Yeah, the author is the guy who co-wrote Batwoman with J.H. Williams a while ago.
Oh yeah,
J.H. Williams the third.
Yeah.
You have to give him the third.
Okay.
It's like you have to give James Tynion the fourth.
James Tynion the fourth. I don't mean to crap on him because he is part of the Snyder School, and I respect that. But I honestly have never gotten into a single piece of his writing. He seems sort of hackish and sort of wannabe Scott Snyder, and it seems like he's sort of like with Scott Snyder, he delivers some cool stories. Like I think his backup stories in some of the Batman issues have been really fun and interesting. Without Scott Snyder, he's just a mess. He is all over the place writing total crap.
Yeah, but keep in mind he's only like 25. He's only 2 years older than me, so I could forgive him for being a little messy.
But he's working for DC. If you work for DC, you have to be at least good at DC.
Have you read his Talon run?
I have.
All of it?
Almost.
Well, there you go.
You think it gets better by the end?
Oh yes, I absolutely loved it when it came to the end, and I really liked it. I thought he made a very good, compelling, likable character that you wanted to root for the entire time. Like,
Okay.
Yeah, I can't.
plus he was teamed up with Gillian March for most of the run. That kind of helped.
Hate that artist.
Really?
Really dislike him. I think
I didn't like him at the beginning when he was drawing Gotham City Sirens, but I think he's gotten a lot better as time went on.
flavorless artwork. There's nothing to it. There's no spirit. He's like a lamer version of Raphael Albuquerque.
Okay. Okay. I'm not sure if I entirely agree, but I could see where that you get that comparison.
Moving on.
I haven't read enough. Oh, sorry.
Should we move on, or do you want to finish this off, Greg?
Oh, I just wanted to say that I haven't read enough of James Tynion to really give an opinion on him. I enjoyed the things that he co-wrote with Scott Snyder, but I think that he, we should be expecting. In a perfect world, we would expect everyone that's working at DC and Marvel to be absolutely first rate all the time. But we don't live in a perfect world, and
we get
I think that for a writer, I'm incredibly jealous of James Tynion.
Yeah.
Incredibly jealous of him. That someone who's not far from my age broke into DC and is co-writing with one of the best writers in comics today, or at least one of the greatest superhero comics. But I think that with time and with the continued mentorship of Scott Snyder, he could definitely be a really promising writer.
I don't doubt that, but right now I just think he's kind of hackish.
Okay.
Transitioning from there to what we're reading personally, I would like to say that I just finished the 4th volume of American Vampire and really liked it. And that's strange because I really had not liked the first 3 volumes, but the 4th volume, Travis is a really compelling hero. It's really interesting. Skinner's sweet story. Just all of it seemed much more like a story and much more like just more compelling. And so I really liked that. And I also, because my comic book store is going out of business this Sunday, which I'm very, very sad about, still, 75% off comics.
Woof! I wish I had that.
That's crazy. That's 1 in every $4 you don't have to spend.
Mm-hmm.
I have been eyeing this Batman number 17, this is the End of Death of the Family. There's a black and white variant. $45. I got it for 11.
Oh, well, there we go.
Wow.
And I looked it up on eBay. Not only could I sell it now for $45 and make $30-something, when I go to Boston Comic Con, which both Greg Capullo and Scott Snyder will be at, I will have them both sign this variant. At which point it will be multiplied by more than 10 times in value to come to a just mind-blowing value of $550 for a comic.
Oh, I hate you.
Isn't that crazy? And I got it for $11, and I'm gonna meet Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. My life is pretty good right now.
Yeah, I don't think my copy of She-Hulk signed by Dan Slott will never reach that much money.
I mean, and imagine in 20 years when people are actually looking for that run.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be crazy. That'll be worth thousands of dollars.
Maybe.
Who knows?
Yeah, it's a tough thing with the comics market these days in terms of supply and demand. I don't claim to be an expert with that, but the basic problem is that all the people who think that their X-Men #1 is going to be as valuable as like a 1960s X-Men #1 are going to be in for quite a disappointment.
Right.
In the not-so-distant future. Because basically all the people who want these comics already have them.
Yeah.
Right.
I also got a whole lot of comics. I stocked up on The Bunker, so now I'm all caught up on that. I haven't read it, but I have all 4 issues. And I'm very excited to start reading that. I haven't taken a look at it yet, but it does look good from the covers. I've heard great things about it. Deadly Class I just got caught up on, and I'm enjoying that. I gave it to my dad. He said it was adolescent nonsense, and and shoved it aside. I also bought The Zero Trade, which I love, even though I've already read most of the comics in there. It's a beautiful book filled with a really cool story. It's a little bit of murder porn at times, but it's good otherwise.
Okay, for me, I'm still continuing reading stuff, manga and comics I'm getting out of the public library. This time I'm reading something called Temigami Bachi. It's a fantasy adventure drama. It takes place in somewhere called Amberground, a land that's always night and is only partially illuminated by an artificial sun that hangs above the capital of the country. And the farther you get away from the capital, the more darker it becomes outside. The story's focusing on this 12-year-old who's finally become a member of the postal service, and who are known as Larrabees. Larrabees are people that go out and deliver packages, letters across the dark country. But it's a very dangerous job because there's giant armored insect monsters that are all over the landscape and are trying to attack these people because letters in this area contain people's raw emotion that was put into them, and they feed off that. It's a really good story. What's surprising to us: government conspiracies, resistance, revolutions, intense action, and real raw human emotion and a real nice human touch to it. It's a series that wouldn't be nearly as good if the characters weren't very as compelling or well written. It's kind of silly because the power everyone uses is love. I mean, that's kind of a goofy concept, but it's really good and quite moving at points. It's definitely something I would really recommend if you're a kind of person who is trying to read Japanese manga.
I could be the kind of person that reads Japanese manga if I had more time. I'm not even saying that that's like a joke.
One time.
Well, yeah, no, but I that's the whole side of the comics world that I haven't experienced much, and I definitely want to. It just, I think part of the problem is that manga isn't as readily available to me as more like American-style comics.
Right.
Same thing with, I'd really love to get into more European comics, but again, they're just being American and all. And being.
Have you read Asterisk, Mr.
I haven't yet. I have not read.
I would definitely recommend that for you, especially if you like American Choppers and stuff like that. Very lighthearted, but a really beautiful, beautiful book.
Oh well, it's a classic. I know that much. I really want to get into Tintin as well.
Oh yes, you see the movie?
I love the movie.
I do too. It's so good.
Yeah, so, besides thinking about things that I want to read but haven't, I'm still reading that Image Comics Humble Bundle. I started reading Fatale,
Yes.
which I thought I would love. I'm a huge...
What is it?
Fatale by Ed Brubaker.
Oh, yeah.
I hadn't read any of the Brubaker noir stuff yet, and was very excited to do so. I love noir. I love the classic film noir. I took a whole course on it. Part of the course was learning how to pronounce noir properly.
How about Lovecraftian horror?
Wait, what?
Lovecraftian horror, since that's a big part of it.
Well, we didn't learn about Lovecraftian horror in the class. We talked more about the classic, 1940s noir.
No, I was talking about with the comic itself, since that's a big part of it.
Oh, yeah, there was a little bit of Lovecraftian horror. Honestly, though, I hate to say it, I dropped out of reading it about halfway through. I just couldn't follow it. I'm not proud to say that. I know everyone loves Fatale. And again, I really wanted to like it, but it just got to a point where I couldn't kid myself anymore. I had stopped being able to follow what was happening.
It's just too confusing.
I had to be true to myself,
Yep.
I read it. I kind of feel the same way. I don't think it's really confusing, more or less, as the points like I'm just not really caring about the story or the characters.
Yeah, it
Characters.
just got to that point where I had to admit it to myself. It
I mean, it
began
looks.
really cool. It's got this great narration.
I mean, it's a great premise, and I do like the artwork on it. It really fits the tone of the story.
What is the premise? Can you remind me?
If let's see here, guy's father dies, passed away, and when he's going through his old journals and stuff, he discovers this like his old tale that goes back to the 50s where his father met this woman called Josephine who has this strange hypnotic allure about her that makes all men go crazy around her, and there's this mysterious cult going on and demons and it's big corrupt cops as well. And it kind of goes from there throughout the couple of decades.
That sounds pretty good.
It's got a good setup here. I just can't really get into it.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird that I'll drop a comic and be like, but I still want to read something else from those guys. Maybe because I know they've done a bunch of noir style things like that together.
Well,
I'll check it out.
Yeah, they got a Fade Out coming out in August. That's the one they talked about at the Image Expo convention.
Really can't wait for the. Wait, are we talking about the same comic? Oh my god. I thought you guys were talking about Revival.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, but Revival is next on my
I totally missed the whole point of this conversation. I'm so sorry.
We were talking about Fatale by Ed Brubaker.
Yeah, and you didn't like that?
It's, like I said, I do like the premise, MS, and I do like the artwork because it does a good job of capturing the mood, the tone, the feel of it all. It's just for some reason I just can't get into the story for whatever or the characters.
I just totally missed all of that conversation. I'm so sorry, guys.
Well, anyways, you should read Revival.
I will say I probably would have had an easier time with Fatale if I wasn't reading it as a PDF. This is part of the reason why I prefer print. Certain things just come so much more easily to me. I genuinely think I would have been able to follow it better and enjoy it more if I wasn't reading it on PDF.
I would agree. Books are sort of more linear, and you can keep track of stuff better, and you can recap things much more easily.
It's also easier to bookmark where you left off.
That's not such a problem for me. But yeah, I mean that is sort of an added benefit. But I think PDF reading is tough, but it's worth it if you get it beforehand.
All right. So I think we should discuss the indie comic we got this week or something.
Yeah, that'd be great. We did MPH, which is the new Mark Millar book, and Mark Millar book, I mean, and it's about pretty much just a drugged up Flash. It's about a guy who can run on a whole bunch of MPH, and it's a drug. It's not just like some cosmic event that caused it to be this way. He's on a drug in prison that makes him go super fast. And
before we even get there, it seems to be a drug that relates back to an experiment someone did in the 80s that's somehow coming back for some reason.
Oh, I didn't catch that part.
It was the opening.
It was right at the beginning.
And then the book's also more about introducing the main character, who's a good guy, but he's not doing the best of things, but he's doing them for a good reason. He's
a good guy who just happens to be a crack dealer.
Yeah, I pretty much said.
I hesitate to call him a good guy.
Well, I said
he's a deluded guy, I think.
He's a guy that the world likes being up on. I don't know. They seem to kick him in the stomach a lot.
He has the right motives.
His heart's in the right place, but he's not doing the right things.
Yeah.
I was pleasantly surprised. I guess it was a few months ago when we talked about Starlight. You know, because I said before, Mark Millar doesn't interest me most of the time. I don't like. I think it's very suspicious that MPH, like so many of his other recent works, before the first issue even came out, there were film rights attached to it. Again,
Lol.
Yep.
but I didn't enjoy this as much as I enjoyed Starlight, but again, I was pleasantly surprised. I thought the art was very strong, and I thought that the story, while a little bit cliched at times, is at least interesting enough to make me want to come back for a second issue.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. It's missing something, but it also has enough to make you want to check out the second issue.
I mean,
I disagree with both of you. I think the art was pretty by the books and not anything special. I thought it wasn't that. I thought it was an interesting plot, but it just wasn't that engaging. I think that the writing was fine. It just wasn't anything special. I just think it was all kind of mediocre and just did not encourage me at all to come back for a second helping.
Well, did it feel obvious to you that this is basically a film pitch?
It's not really an anything pitch. It just seems like a half-baked story. There's nothing there.
I mentioned that in my review. It doesn't feel like it doesn't have heart to it, a soul to it. It doesn't feel like there's something. It's lacking something that makes it stand out amongst his other works.
It's like a teen fan fiction.
It has no bite to it.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely reads a little bit like fan fiction-y. But anytime that you're doing a really obvious take on a character like the Flash, you're going to get those kinds of comparisons.
I think it was not an original story, but I do not think it was based on the Flash.
It's just
the Flash is a very different character.
Yeah, it's just a coincidence he has the superpowers like the Flash.
Yeah, I think it's about someone who's sort of like dogged by his like employer and then kicked in the nards when he's in jail. Which it's not a bad premise, but it's been done before.
Oh yeah, well that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's the biggest problem. There's nothing. It's a combination of different unoriginal ideas put together to make something vaguely, different. I think it's still just barely greater than the sum of its parts.
It's half baked.
But yeah, well, maybe like 3/4 of the way baked.
There we go.
But
I'd say 2/3.
But the more I think about it and the more we talk about it, the more I realize, I said I would have read the second issue if it was right there in front of me. I don't think come next month I'm going to go out of my way to pick up the second issue. I just can't see myself doing that. Not with all the other just better comics out there.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'll come back to reviewing this again. I got other more interesting comics to read.
Yeah.
I think it was mainly the art for me that didn't make me want to come back. If this had been done with John Romita, I would have definitely come back.
He's busy.
Yeah, I just think the art was subpar and sort of turned me off the book.
You're a John Romita fan?
It's not that I'm a John Romita fan. I just like art with heart, and this was not art with heart.
It's the artist for Hellboy and Hell, I think.
Then I won't be reading that.
For Hellboy and Hell.
Well, the guy drew some Hellboy issues. I looked him up because I didn't know who he was.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I think I still think the art was decent at least. I think it's it reminds me a little bit of that the general aesthetic of kind of what's becoming a DC house style with like David Finch and John Layman with these very kind of well-defined figures.
John Layman's a writer, not an artist.
Not John Layman.
John Layton.
Yeah, the illustrator who was on Detective Comics with him.
It's John Layton.
Jason Fabak.
Yeah,
Jason
yeah,
Fabok.
Yeah.
I am sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
Jason Fabok.
Yeah, he's a much
Uh,
better version of Finch, though.
People who I don't dislike styles like that. It doesn't really appear
It fits in the right
very
I
areas.
loved how you
distinctive
said
to
that
me.
though. The DC house style that is
Oh,
kind of
I can't take credit for that. That's been something they've talked about on Comics Alliance.
um,
That was something that I think
it's still a great
the
it's still
writer
a
Matt D.
great
Wilson came
term.
up with. But all credit where credit's due, though. And I think that was coined by Matt D. Wilson. I may be wrong though. It might have been Chris Sims.
And I think Marvel's starting to develop their own one with their indie feeling books.
Yeah,
I
but
wouldn't
that's
call it a
so
house
much
style.
better.
Though.
Well, yeah, but I'm still saying there's a style.
If your
being
house
developed.
style is everyone looking different, then different and unique. The fact that I've heard a few people complain actually about the fact that a bunch of their books now read like Hawkeye. I don't think that's a problem though.
Yeah,
Well,
where are you
if you get
complaining?
oversaturated with it, it's going to be a kind of a problem.
There is nothing wrong with Marvel right now. I can't find a single thing wrong.
Avengers, Hickman.
Fine, but like you can steer clear of that. Like there's no like lack of good books to read at Marvel right now.
What you have is more choices. They have different books for different tastes, and you really don't get that from DC. DC. It's all the same kind of grimy, grim stuff.
Except Harley Quinn.
Except Harley Quinn, but there are exceptions. But for the most part, it's just like who's doing grim and grimy better. And so it's like if you're not you could read Batman. That's really good. I hear Wonder Woman's pretty great. But if you want something a little more,
I think that DC it drags things on too long and in sort of like a manufactured way. I have not been able to get into Zero Year for any of it, and I love Scott Snyder and I love every issue, but I haven't been able to follow along with the story because of DC's like printing schedule and all that nonsense. You know?
Nah.
No, you don't see
No.
what I'm saying?
I get what you mean. They're they're a little bit rigid at times. Is that what you're
I
talking
just feel
about?
like it's like a long comic. It's a long comic, and then we don't see the comic for a while. And I'd rather it just be short and every 2 weeks, or at least every 2 weeks to get into the story. I feel like I can't get into.
So you want double shipping?
I want double shipping for at least the first 2 months.
That's I think that's an interesting opinion.
I'm not sure. That might scare some people off if they can't afford it.
Okay. Well, either way, it looks like we're.
Yeah, let's wrap it up here, folks. We had a good conversation.
It's been fun.
It's been interesting.
We'll see you next week.
Yeah. Maybe next time we'll discuss Rat Queens.
Read X Cup. Good night. Read X Cup.
There we go.